Good morning, everyone. Happy Victober. So we put up a couple weeks ago for Peter's 7th birthday party the Halloween paper chains because he wanted a Halloween theme for his birthday. And then I was like, well, just for the festive season, I'll put it up. And I looked up, who invented paper chains, and lo and behold, Victorians. So I'm excited because this is over the whole room, all of it. I woke up at 5:30. I always wake up early the first day of October, which is really silly. I don't plan to, I just do. And then I knew I wouldn't get back to sleep, but that's okay because I got a head start on my reading. And you saw I lit the first candle of Victober, which was, let me twist it here. Cider House. And it smells amazing. It is my favorite candle from Yankee Candle. And then I read 2 stories out of Gothic tales. So I'm going to read 1 or 2 stories a day, depending on the length of each story. But An American's Tale and The Winning Shot, and the American's Tale was, what do I want to say? Like, it was just so short, and it had a bit of humor to it, and it was funny, but it was just, he had really stereotypical and cheesy portrayals of Americans, which, I mean, I shouldn't be surprised by that in a Victorian short story. But so that was like, okay. And I read The Winning Shot, and that was amazing. So if you follow me on Goodreads, I'm going to put star ratings for each of the stories. And today I'm starting a buddy read of The Beetle with my friend Teresa. I am excited. I just read the first chapter. It was very dramatic, so I'll see how it continues to go on. And then when I first woke up in the dark, I listened to my Victober Atmospheric playlist on Spotify, which I will link down below. By the time this goes up, if you have watched my Victober talk with Taylor, you'll see that I linked a couple Spotify playlists I had made for Victober this year. And I read Disappearances, which is the first of Elizabeth Gaskell's Gothic tales, and I loved it. It was a really simple story, but it's Elizabeth Gaskell's writing. So it just was all of these anecdotes of different people disappearing. And it felt very real to me because my grandmother, when she was a child, had a cousin who was her age. And I think this is when she was 5 years old. And he lived with his parents above a store that they owned. They asked him to go bring something to a neighbor, and he never came home, and he was 5 years old. So these stories of people suddenly disappearing, it does happen sometimes. And so just reading it in the dark with the Atmospheric playlist, it was kind of intense. Yes, so I did go ahead a couple of days ago. I finished all my audiobooks I had, and I was just in the mood for nothing else. So I started Lorna Doone, and I am 73 pages, and I definitely want to get a jump on this because I am discussing it for my Patreon book club on 2 dates. But the 23rd is the first date, and then the 25th is the next date. I have to show you this October calendar. This is a Norman Rockwell calendar, and I just love the October page. So I need to flip it up, but then I wanted to show you, I need to make breakfast for the boys. They're waiting. But I'm going to put on the Victober Slice of Life playlist. And I'm excited for it. There they are. So every morning we do some audiobook time, and Peter does things like Play-Doh or kinetic sand. But we got him for his birthday, this cardboard haunted house set. So it's very elaborate. He's done most of that side. Can you flip it to the other side? So I have started working on it with him, painting. So I've just painted, it's not very interesting looking, but these pieces. And there's all of this as well. So Peter, can you remember the name of the Victorian book because we're doing Victober together. Can you remember the name of the book that we started actually yesterday?
Ooh, yeah, Treasure Seekers.
The Story of the Treasure Seekers by Nesbit. And you liked it so far?
Yeah, totally.
I liked it too.
Who would not like it?
Who would not like it, says Peter.
Can you imagine anyone who wouldn't like it?
It's very good. It's very good. So we're going to listen to that while we work on the haunted house. How's your cookie? Is it yummy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I made some double chocolate oat cookies.
Flashy.
Mm-hmm.
Picture.
Mm-hmm. I have here all my recent magazines that have come in. So many. I haven't read any of them, and I meant to get kind of a start on them before. See, I even have a Christmas one that came early. I meant to get a start on them before Victober, but here we are. But I'm planning the menu for the week, so I will show you. As soon as I saw this picture of this, what is it called? Normandy stew? Yeah, Normandy style pork stew. I knew I had to make it. So that will be happening this week. It just looks like everything you want in an autumnal meal. Everything. Also, I can't believe it never occurred to me before, but I knit myself a pair of comfy house socks. Knitting with sock yarn, which is really, really thin yarn. I actually don't think they're super comfortable socks, but I like having basically slippers. And I love these so much. They were so fun and easy and quick to knit up that I'm going to make a brown pair also. But Arthur really liked these, so I'm taking a detour to knit him some socks, which his feet are so little compared to mine. They won't take long. But these are very slippery, and we only have hardwood floors. So I did get some. It's called Sock Stop, I think is what it's called, which is like kind of a rubbery stuff you can put on the bottom of it. And that's coming in the mail, but not until the 15th. So I'm not going to let him wear them until then because I'm worried he'll fall and like really hurt his head. So I'll have a second pair eventually, but I love these. They are insanely warm and very comfy. It's like wearing a sweater on your feet. It is Wednesday, October 6th, and I've just put on the Victorian London thunderstorm, horses, bells, walking on cobblestone, ASMR room. It is lovely. I have the sound off because I'm worried I'll get copyrighted. But why I have this on right now, background noise, while I work on abridging a story for the literary parlor, the spooky literary parlor, and it's an October tradition. We did it virtually last year, but we're doing it in person this year. If the weather is nice, we'll actually be doing it outside. But it is of The Winning Shot by Arthur Conan Doyle. I was originally going to read a different story, but we only have 5 spots that people have signed up for, counting mine. So then Diane, my friend, asked if I could read too, and I thought, you know what? I just read this story, The Winning Shot, in my Gothic Tales collection by Arthur Conan Doyle, and it's so good. So I'm going to work on abridging it. It is at almost 12,000 words, and I would like to get it down to 7,000. So I'm going to see if I can do that successfully and still keep the story relatively, keep it good without chopping out too much. So we're just going to see how it goes. So we have just finished The Story of the Treasure Seekers by E. Nesbit. You loved it?
Yeah, and we even have been working on this haunted house I got for my birthday. Watercoloring, doing it with markers. I love it. It's also a good mother and kid thing.
Because I've been painting too. I'm doing like crazy colors at this point because it's a haunted house. So I think doing crazy colors is fun.
Yeah, but I'm doing like these colors, like they're sort of crazy, yeah, sort of. But the Treasure Seekers, I love it.
What was really fun about it? Or maybe what was your favorite part?
Sorry, foilers. Foilers if you're going to read this. So I really loved the ending. They get to live with a Native American uncle, or however you say it, uncle.
He's their uncle from India.
Yeah. And they keep calling him uncle. And they're like, Uncle, could you come to tea? Uncle, could you come to tea? And then he's like, sure. And then they have play food.
Yes, they do, don't they?
From Indian base.
Yeah, they do. And they have
total spoilers.
And then I really liked when they had different plans to find the treasure, and when the Albert the neighbor boy, and they always called him Albert the neighbor boy.
No, you mean...
Or Albert from next door.
Yeah.
They never just called him Albert, and they were trying to dig, and he got stuck in the hole.
And then they found 2 half sovereigns, was it? Yeah, 2 half sovereigns.
Yeah.
Or was it 2 half crowns?
I think it was 2 half sovereigns.
Yeah, probably.
And I liked too, it was supposed to be, we weren't supposed to know who was narrating it, but you could tell don't give away, but you could tell which sibling was narrating it pretty soon into it, I thought.
What do you mean?
I'll explain later when we're not filming. Yeah, so it was just really charming, and I loved all the adults they interacted with. It was a great book. And guess what, Peter?
What?
There's 2 more in that series.
What? We got to listen to them.
We do. One of them is still Victorian. It's like the last year of the Victorian era. And then the next one is past it into the Edwardian era. So I really want to read a lot of E. Nesbit books.
Me too.
So glad we enjoyed it.
We're very soon, we're going to finish this whole house.
We are, and we'll show it. Yes. And I will show the finished house when it's all done. Finished haunted house when it's all done. It is the evening of Literary Parlor. I'm heading into Philadelphia. We don't live in Philadelphia anymore. And so I just have not been able to go to this one bookstore that is specifically in Fairmount. It is a used bookstore, and it's so nice. And I added an extra hour for traffic, and I only had like 10 minutes of traffic. So I'm mega early for Spooky Literary Parlor. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to see if I can find parking next to the shop because it's a Friday night. I didn't know if I would. And if I can't, I'll just keep driving and go to the mansion and wait, for a while. But I was able to find parking. So I might feel a little shy filming there, but I'll let you know. But I'll definitely show you if I get any purchases. But if you watched my cozy chat with Jennifer Brooks, her talking about going used book shopping in Victober has just made me really crave it. I I did end up cutting it pretty close last night, getting to Literary Parlor on time. And I always I want to film during that, but then I just feel too shy to do it because no one else is doing that. So I will show you the program later on. It was super fun as always. There were some really creepy stories. It was a fun time. But my used book shopping was so productive, and this bookstore always has very obscure Victorian books that I wouldn't find in any other used bookstore. And it's a husband and wife that run the bookstore, and she really loves Victorian literature, so she has her, keeps her eyes peeled for specific books. And I just finished with Peter. You saw he talked about the Treasure Seekers by E. Nesbit, and this is the sequel. That is 1901 publication date, so it just qualifies as Victorian, called the Wouldbegoods. And I was so excited, firstly, because it was only $3, but then because it has really sweet little illustrations throughout it. And I mean, I'm going to give the Treasure Seekers 5 stars. That's how much I love it. Just had so much charm to it. I know I just passed an illustration, but I feel like the next one, yeah. And let's see one more illustration. So there that is, yes. And then the back of it. I just think this is such a sweet little addition. I would have probably accepted any physical copy of it. But yeah, I'm going to give 5 stars. I loved it so much, and I cannot wait to read this. And in this one, they're on a summer holiday, which just sounds delightful. I'm going to ask Peter if he would rather do The Light Princess by George MacDonald or read this. I think he's going to say this. Now, I do still have trouble with a sore throat. Just because of acid reflux. So I won't be reading this aloud, but the reason I really wanted a physical copy is that the audiobook is abridged. So my plan is to kind of try to follow along, even though we are painting while we do it, also kind of follow along to see what is taken out of the audiobook and then just read physical for what they take out. My hope is it's just whole chapters are taken out. That would be easy to kind of go through it that way. We will see. But then I found a Charlotte Mary Yonge book called The Trial, and this is the sequel to The Daisy Chain, which I read, and my patrons are going to get to see a review of The Daisy Chain that will be going up later on in the month. And then apparently there's spoilers on the back, but it reads more like a sensation novel, so that would be interesting because The Daisy Chain was very much domestic realism. But I couldn't believe this was there. And then I am feeling really in the mood for more kind of domestic realism Victorian novels. And so I picked up a physical copy of The Perpetual Curate by Mrs. Oliphant, aka Margaret Oliphant. She was one of Queen Victoria's favorite authors. And I have read, Katie from Books and Things and I did a couple buddy reads of the first couple in this series. They've been hit or miss for me. Miss Marchbanks, which looks like Miss Marjorie Banks, but apparently it was said Marchbanks. I didn't enjoy that much, and I know a lot of people really enjoyed it. But the other earlier ones in the Carlingford Chronicles, I've really enjoyed. So I'm excited to get this one. And the synopsis looks really fun. There is a curate, and apparently there's some people who think he's too low church. Some people think he should be more high church. And his love for Lucy Woodhouse is threatened by his lack of prospects. His evangelical aunts in charge of a family living, they disapprove of his high church ways, and rumors about a pretty shop girl begin circulating. Slowly, it dawns on Frank that he may well be doomed to a life of perpetual and single curacy. So this looks very long. It looks like 1,000 pages from the thickness, but Virago, these editions have thick pages. It is more around 500 pages. And then lastly, I got a copy of The Mill on the Floss by George Eliot. This was the very first Victober's group read. And it was, unfortunately, a miss for me. But this was very early into my reading George Eliot. I had only read Middlemarch for the first time, which I've talked about that I didn't enjoy it that much. And I'm kicking myself for getting rid of the copy. But honestly, I didn't really love the edition I had before. It was a hardcover, but the illustrations I thought were really, really ugly, honestly. So I was excited to see this Penguin Classics edition. And next year in my literary parlor book club, I picked The Mill on the Floss. And I think it's a summer read. I can't remember. But also, I wanted a physical copy of it because I tried listening to the audiobook earlier this year and I did not like the narration for the kind of the locals, the like lesser educated class, the way that they were portrayed. I just didn't like the way she was doing them. So yes, I am excited to give this another try because this is I feel like a pretty well-known George Eliot. And I'm hoping that second time will be the charm because it is the only one of her books that I've been like, yeah, I didn't like that. And I would like to fix that. So hopefully I'll like Felix Holt when I get to it and I'll like The Mill on the Floss the second time around. I'm honestly so excited. I just want to pick it up right now, but I think I'm going to tide myself over because I don't want to have to read it twice in 1 year, because it would be sooner than a year before Literary Parlor. And I'll just tide myself over with reading Felix Holt. So I thought I would do a Victober check-in. I haven't really done that yet, this vlog. And I am on the way to the library. It's about a 20-minute drive. We do have a library that is around 7 minutes away from us, and I actually just dropped off some picture books there because that's where I go with the boys because it's close. But the library that, basically I can do holds and they're for free and they're within around 4 days. I go there once a week on Saturdays. I don't intend to go there once a week, but it's just been happening this month because I've been checking out a lot of books and things for the boys' school or for Victober or fall picture books, which I am obsessed with. And hopefully I will show you some of the fall picture books that I have checked out. Although I did put a picture on Instagram of some of the fall picture books, some of my favorite ones. And I do have this one called When You Pick a Pumpkin or Picking a Pumpkin. I showed it in my Victober vlog last year and it's boxed up somewhere and I can't find it. So I hope I find it by the time we do pumpkin picking. But I also hadn't done an update yet because honestly, the first 6 days of Victober were kind of awful. I have been feeling really sick, just with normal fatigue, chronic illness stuff. But on top of that, for the past 2 years, I've been battling acid reflux and have done different things that have helped for a time, but progressively it's gotten worse and worse, and it's just really peaked this month to where I can't even think about anything else at night. And just let me say before I go into more detail, please do not leave comments with your cures for acid reflux. I think people don't realize that when you tell someone ways that they can fix their chronic illness symptoms, you're making it sound like they haven't tried it already and that if they just tried hard enough, they wouldn't be ill. So pretty much you have no idea how much Googling about acid reflux I have done. I've been to so many doctors. I've tried different diets, on medication, off medication, homeopathic remedies, all of it. So please do not leave suggestions because I am trying to work on it and I have a different strategy right now. But I'm not ready to talk about it because if it doesn't work, then it won't have felt worth it to do it. But it does really limit my diet, this specific one that I'm doing. So I am bummed about that, like kind of the treats and things. I'm cutting that out and I'm trying to do a really just kind of like way to heal my body. So that was really, really upsetting. The first, I love Victober and I look forward to it so much throughout the year. And on top of that, I started out with, shocker for me, some DNFs. I'm going to scooch this up a little bit because I feel like it's, some DNFs. And I hate it because I know myself as a reader, and so I'll be like, no, I don't want a DNF. I just started Victober, and also I was having flashbacks from last Victober when I had so many DNFs, and I think Aurora Floyd at the time I gave 4 stars, but later on I was like, I should give it 5 stars. But that and my reread of Jane Eyre, that was like the only really enjoyable reading. Well, you know what, Treasure Island, but Treasure Island I finished at the very beginning of Victober, and then there were so many DNFs or 3-star reads in there that it was mega depressing. So I started thinking back, like, am I just not going to have good Victobers anymore? Because I've run out of all of the, like, iconic Victorian novels. And so I DNF'd The Beetle by Richard Marsh. It was kind of what I thought it was going to be, unfortunately. I was waiting for it to surprise me with characterization, but it was extremely plot heavy. And I know for some people that really works. And for me, unfortunately, it just did not. So it didn't work for me. DNF'd that, which I was bummed about because my friend Teresa and I were going to read it, and it was going to be our first buddy read. Then Lorna Doone, which is my Patreon group read, took me around 200 pages to get into. That's a long time, especially if you are doing audiobook. It's a long time. And so I DNF'd The Beetle. I was like, you know what? Cut your losses. You have to move on. And I started Thelma by Marie Corelli, and I just couldn't get into her writing style. And it was a bummer because it was a really interesting plot. But I know now, and sometimes it's this X factor. If an author has a writing style that I like, I can't tell you what it was about her writing style specifically, except that the characters felt aloof. And like I said, I can't tell you specifics. It was just something about it. I just know when I read it, that's how they feel. So it was really upsetting because that was like the first 6 days. And so then on one day, I just felt so sick, and I ended up, DNFing a couple books. And I was just like, Victober's supposed to be a highlight of my reading year. Woe is me. So dramatic. But I just rely on it. So I hadn't done an update because I didn't want to talk about it because I was so upset. I have been enjoying Elizabeth Gaskell's Gothic Tales. I have been enjoying Arthur Conan Doyle's Gothic Tales, although his are getting a bit repetitive in that if someone has a facial deformity or abnormity, and if they are foreign, aka not from Scotland, Ireland, or England, they are morally bankrupt. That's like, it's a trope in many of his stories. So I am enjoying them, but they are getting a bit repetitive. So I think I'll slow down my reading of that. And I have paused on Lorna Doone. I only have around 250 pages left, but I just burnt out on the audiobook. And I don't want to burn out this Victober. So I'm just cutting my losses and being like, I made a lot of progress. I don't need it finished until the 23rd when the group discussion is. And I am doing some non-Victober audiobook time. And I think that is going to keep this Victober great. Victober will still be the theme of October with a little bit of variation in there. I have been reading and just soaking up a reread of Betsy Was a Junior by Maud Hart Lovelace. Betsy Ray, love of my life. And it's just been the loveliest thing. I know that Petra Yu last year, she read some non-Victorian books during Victober and said it really helped her Victober for her not to have burnout. And I really don't want to burn out. So I started the next in the Inspector and Mrs. Jeffries series, which is a really ridiculous, over-the-top, cozy mystery series where Mrs. Jeffries is this Victorian housemaid, and she helps her, the man who is her boss, who is the homeowner, is a police inspector, but he's really incompetent and bumbling. So she helps him solve cases, but makes him feel like he solved them himself. And I really I'm enjoying it. I was like, I need a real bubblegum read. And even though I have Raffles, the Amateur Cracksman, which is going to be a Victorian, one. I think I just need something modern to kind of reset me, because I listened to too much of Lorna Doone. Basically, Lorna Doone has been more dense than I wanted, so I'm like, let me just get it over with. And so I listened to a lot, and now I'm like, I just really need a break from Lorna Doone. And it's really good, but just this year I have been wanting kind of more pacey books. That's what I'm trying to say. But highlight already of Victober, and I need to remember these highlights, is I absolutely adored The Treasure Seekers by Nesbit. It was so good. One of my favorite children's book of all time now. You can definitely tell it's Victorian in some of the terms that they use for minorities, so just be aware of that if you're listening to the audiobook. And I just said to Peter, like, we don't say that term, like, we don't use that term. He's like, okay. And you even saw, like, when he was giving his review, he said Native Americans, and he knew, like, I just said, we don't say the other term. But it was so good and charming, and I just love, there's such whimsy to it. So I couldn't believe I found the Wouldbegoods at the used bookstore, and I think we're just going to jump straight into that. Peter sounds like he wants to jump straight into it. And the two books that I'm so excited about, and I wish that I had started them earlier in the week, because starting on Monday, this is Saturday, starting on Monday, I'm beginning my buddy read with Kate from the novel Nomad of John Marchmont's Legacy by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. And that is a sensation novel. And Mary Elizabeth Braddon is really wonderful at doing sensation novels with characterization. So I think it's going to be just what I'm in the mood for. But yes, so the other two books that I think, I just wanted characterization. I sound like a broken record. But I started another Charlotte Mary Yonge book. And you're going to see, I have an interview, I can't wait to go up, with two Charlotte Mary Yonge scholars. And it just really invigorated me to read more by her. And I had remembered way back when, it was like 3 Victobers ago, someone commented on one of my videos when I talked about Charlotte Mary Yonge and said, oh, have you read Heartsease? It's her Pride and Prejudice retelling. And I thought, no, I haven't, but I definitely want to read it. And I picked it up. I was like, it wasn't on my TBR, but I wanted something domestic. I picked it up, and I have loved it immediately. I'm finding, when I read The Daisy Chain by Charlotte Mary Yonge, I liked it, but the reading did not come easily to me. This, I cannot put it down. And it's a really interesting setup. Now, I am through volume 1, and it flew by. I can't believe I'm already through volume 1. But I don't know if this is a Pride and Prejudice retelling. Maybe she has another book that is a Pride and Prejudice retelling. So far, it's a really interesting and nuanced dynamic to it. Basically, there is a younger brother in the family who is, if the older brother doesn't get married, then he is going to be the heir. And he goes off on a trip, and he falls in love at first sight with Violet, which I love. The title is a pun. Heartsease is a 3-color violet flower, and so her name is Violet. Anyway, she's 16 on the day that they get married, so she is a baby, but she's really, really sweet. She's really pretty. And so then she is from, I don't think she's working class, but she's just not up to snuff, according to his family. He doesn't even tell them about it until after he has married her. And so then he comes back, and basically his sister, his mom, and his great aunt are all like, so nice to meet you. Oh, I hate her. So they're like very mean girls, like act nice to her face, but they're passive aggressive and manipulative. And it's written just, I cannot put it down. So I think it's going to be, my prediction is that Violet is going to have be made of sterner stuff than they predict. I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think I'm going to like it more than the heir of Redcliffe. So I wanted some more domestic realism reading, and I'm really excited that I just decided to DNF, because now I'm so excited about Heartsease. And then also another one, basically reading The Treasure Seekers. I was like, Nesbit, I forgot about how amazing you were. I read Five Children and It like 10 years ago, and I liked it when I read it. I read The Enchanted Castle, and I DNF'd that because it got pretty repetitive. I liked it, but it felt kind of repetitive. And so then I just kind of forgot about her. But researching her on Wikipedia, she wrote a lot of adult novels under a pseudonym, Fabian Bland. She was a socialist. She knew George Bernard Shaw, and they were part of the Fabian Society. So that's kind of her name, is a nod to that, her pseudonym for her adult novels. And now during Nonfiction November, I am absolutely reading a biography of Nesbit. But I picked up The Prophet's Mantle, and these Heartsease and The Prophet's Mantle, I don't know if they're in print anywhere. So I picked them up on Project Gutenberg, which is so convenient. You can have books delivered to your Kindle. It's amazing. And I am 3 chapters into The Prophet's Mantle. I keep waiting for it to disappoint me, and it's amazing. I'll just tell you the first chapter. There are these 2 brothers who are kind of frenemies. They don't actually say they dislike each other, but they kind of make it clear they dislike each other. I'm going to take off my seatbelt because I'm parked. And their father is on his deathbed, and he knows the dynamic between his 2 boys. He is a mill owner, and he makes the will that the boys have to work together at the mill and be on good terms to get their inheritance. It is going to be interesting because I was a little put off hearing it was a socialist novel, because I thought if there's going to be so much commentary on politics and economy and it's not going to be character based, then I don't want to read it. But so far, the way the socialism is woven in is fascinating to me. And some of the workers in the mill have a conversation after the father dies, and it's really gripping. So went from really not good to doing really well. And I'm also at the library. I brought with me, the library doesn't close for about 2 hours. I brought Kidnapped. I am, how many chapters into Kidnapped? 4 chapters into Kidnapped, around 45 pages, and I am loving this. I just was very nervous after Treasure Island that this would not live up to it, but I'm really enjoying this so far, and it's really different from Treasure Island. It's its own thing. So I'm just excited to continue exploring Robert Louis Stevenson's catalog. I just wrote him off as a author for boys, and I shouldn't have done that. So now I'm really excited. Also, I've achieved a new level of book nerd. I was looking around to see if there were hardcover copies of Heartsease by Charlotte Mary Yonge. No heart, or like, her, expensive. There are. I saw one for like $150. I'm not gonna, do that. But I did see before at the Met, they had on display, like the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, they had on display a first edition of Heartsease illustrated by Kate Greenaway, who was a really famous Victorian illustrator. I don't know if you're supposed to say her name Greenway or Greenaway. Tell me in the comments if you know. And it's been taken down. It says it was from a private collection, and it's been, taken out of the library. So I emailed the Met and asked if they knew where it was. Someone's just parked next to me. I'll see if I hear back, but I don't know if I will hear back. I don't know if they know where it is now. But I was thinking, if I could get to see that in person, I wish it was still at the Met and I could make a field trip and go see it. Yes. So all in all, I'm feeling pretty good about Victober. And hopefully I'll just have some really gripping reads in there, and taking a break from Victorian audiobooks will be just what the doctor ordered. I just had a very refreshing 2 hours in the library, and I could have gone home and read at home, but it's an uphill battle to read with kids around. So I thought, you know what? I should just take advantage of the quiet environment. And I finished Betsy Was a Junior, and I always forget at the end of Betsy Was a Junior, something really sad happens. So I was trying to cry quietly in the library. They're still masking at this library, so I don't think people saw as much, but I was like dabbing my eyes. So good. So good. And I think I'll just continue this on Betsy and Joe. And Rainey, if you are watching, don't feel rushed. Read, Betsy Was a Junior whenever you feel like it. I don't know how long I'll take to get through Betsy and Joe. I'm really enjoying savoring these. But I really would love, for some reason, I just got the hankering. Well, first, I wanted to be able, in my birthday month, to read Betsy's Wedding, because it's my favorite one. But I'm over that goal, obviously, because my birthday was in August. But now I have a new goal of being able to read Emily of New Moon. Emily of New Moon, I always do that. Emily of Deep Valley, which is in the same world as this, but not part of the Betsy-Tacy series. But I would love to read Emily of Deep Valley right at the end of the year, beginning of the new year. Something about it just seems like a really great way to start the reading year. And I think also I'd like to have several rereads lined up for January. And this is what we do as readers. We're constantly reading, acquiring books, and planning out when we will be reading new books, or just going to the library and spontaneously getting things. I felt so bad at the library. The computer systems were down. So I did only pick out one new thing to check out. So they're having to write down the names of everything. The rest were hold, so they had all my hold slips. So I didn't feel bad picking those up. But The Great Mouse Detective. So on Sunday afternoons, typically I watch an old movie with the boys. Last Sunday afternoon, I think it's on this vlog. I think I did document that we watched Mary Poppins. I have come to terms with the fact that if when I was a kid, my parents showed me a movie from when they were a kid, I would call that an old movie. I've come to terms with the fact that a movie that was originally published, it's saying 2002. It's definitely not 2002. I think it's 1987 was when it came out. Qualifies as an old movie to them. And this is Victorian setting. And I just love The Great Mouse Detective. So I've been wanting to watch that. And then I got a whole slew of autumnal picture books. I got Little Blue Truck's Halloween. I have never read this. And I love the original Little Blue Truck book. Then The Apple Doll, another autumnal one. I went picture book crazy this month. Hello Bumblebee Bat, which this actually is this in Thailand? I'm pretty sure I got this because the next geography unit I'm doing with Peter is set in Thailand, and the Bumblebee Bat is one of the animals that's there. Then Pumpkin Trouble by Jan Thomas. I've never read that one, so that's a new to me fall one. I love this one. The cover is a little unusual. Pumpkin Jack. But it shows that he's like an awesome jack-o'-lantern, and then winter happens, and then at the end, he grows up all over again. Apples to Oregon being the slightly true narrative of how a brave pioneer father brought apples, peaches, pears, plums, grapes, and cherries, and children across the plains. I like the idea of that. Then I have liked this one in past falls, Fletcher and the Falling Leaves. And what else autumnal do I have here? These are more for the Thailand unit we're going to do. Hush. It is a Thai lullaby, I think is the subtitle of it. And then The Umbrella Queen. The next one we had lined up for geography was Japan, but two books that the library only has one copy of are checked out and they have the same due date. So I'm wondering if somebody else is doing the Beautiful Feet books geography unit this year. So I just put those on hold, and so we'll do Thailand first and then we'll skip to Japan. The Girl Who Wore Too Much, a folk tale from Thailand. Look at all of those skirts. And then The Lotus Seed, and this is apparently a Reading Rainbow book. And anything else? Okay. I did also read one more chapter of Kidnapped by Robert Louis Stevenson, and I love it. It's so exciting. And then each morning I have been reading one picture book to the boys. Lately it's been autumnal picture books. We do our like little devotional Bible memory, and then I read a picture book and also some poetry. So I've been reading the same 3 autumnal poems, rotating them. It's Autumn Fires by Robert Louis Stevenson. Fall Leaves Fall, I think is the name of it, by Emily Bronte. And then it might just be called Fall or Autumn by Mary Oliver. And they're beautiful, and I love rotating through them. And the boys have really been enjoying poetry, and I would love to cultivate a love of poetry in them And I think if you start them young, then they will. So I got some silly poetry, and this is Hard-Boiled Bugs for Breakfast and Other Tasty Poems by Jack Perletsky. I've seen him recommended a lot. And then I've Lost My Hippopotamus, More Than 100 Poems Illustrated by Jackie Urbanovic. These are also by Jack Perletsky. I'm really looking forward to these. I think silly poems are a great way to pull children in and get them interested. And then I also, after that, I think I might do Runny Babbitt by Shel Silverstein. I don't know if Arthur will get the joke of Runny Babbitt, but Peter definitely will. And I'm going to drive home, do some more reading this afternoon. It is Doris at Aldi Books, her mid-month book bash. But then I'm also going to read tonight because it is my second Victober social, and we are having a reading party. So we're going to all talk about what we're reading and then just do some reading sprints. I'm thinking we're going to do 2 half-hour reading sprints. And that is all.